Today, we preview the 2025 Boston Red Sox with Red Sox beat reporter Max Cerullo from the Boston Herald. You're listening to the Bucko Banter podcast brought to you by the Just Baseball Media Network. Cue the music.
Rockin' 101, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates. Order steak by the plates, and in case after case, run my race at my pace, clear the grass of the snake.
Welcome back to another team preview. Today we have the Boston Red Sox, and we're joined by Max Cerullo of the Boston Herald. Mac, welcome on the Bucko Banner.
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Let's talk Red Sox baseball because I'm excited about this team last year. Let's preview the offseason and see how you grade it. 2024, 81 and 81, third in the AL East. A lot of additions this year. Alex Bregman, Walker Buehler, Patrick Sandoval, Aroldis Chapman, former Bucko, Justin Wilson, former Bucko. And then we got via trade Blake Sabol, Carlos Narvaez, Garrett Crochet, and then we lost Kenley Jansen, Chris Martin, James Paxton, Nick Pivetta, Lucas Sims, Tyler O'Neill, Danny Jansen, and then we lost via trade Chase Shugart, current Pirate, Cam Boozer, Emmanuel Valdez, current Pirate, Wilkeman Gonzalez, Kyle Teal, Braden Montgomery, and Chase Meadroth. How do we feel about this offseason, and can you give it a grade?
Well, you covered everything right there, man. Yeah.
We came prepared.
Yeah, wow. So I'll tell you this. If you had asked this question before the Alex Bregman signing, you would have probably heard a lot of frustration from Red Sox fans, even though up to that point they had done quite a lot. But Bregman really changed things for this group. I think this was an A for the team this year. Like they needed to really go out and actually prove that they are as serious about winning as they claim. There've been a lot of talk the last few years how we're committed to winning. We are, the whole full throttle comment that Tom Werner made last winter kind of was emblematic of they were talking a big game, but they weren't putting their money where their mouth was. And something very strange happened this offseason where even after they trade for Garrett Crochet, which was just a blockbuster of, it's the biggest move they've made in years. And really, there were a lot of Red Sox fans, even after that, who basically were writing it off as if it was nothing because they wanted to see them spend. They wanted to see them go out and win a bidding war for a good player who actually moves the needle. And that's what Bregman was. All the other moves that they've made will help. I really don't think they did a good job this offseason where they didn't really lose anybody I think they'll miss. And the guys they brought in, I think, could really raise the ceiling. I think this is the best offseason they've had in a long time. And you can tell there's a lot more buzz around this team than there's been in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the last few off seasons, you've seen the memes online of they hang the banner of they almost got this free agent and they talked to this free agent. And it seemed like Boston fans were getting very impatient with this front office. But they finally pulled the trigger on a guy like Alex Bregman. To me, before Alex Bregman, Crochet was a big move, but he's, you got him under control. It seemed like they were more so banking on these young studs that they have coming up, and they're waiting for those guys. And it still seems like they've got a bright future ahead of them. The window is going to only be longer and longer with some of these bats coming up. Do you think the hesitancy to go after some big free agents in the past has been around, these young guys that they're developing that are very close to the big leagues?
I think that what they've been trying to do is hold their chips back until they feel like they are actually ready to go all in. And it has taken a lot longer than most fans have really wanted. I think last offseason especially was the most frustrating because, it felt like they were on the cusp and, the young guys were almost there, but they kind of just held pat and, just tried to roll with what they had. But now I think you can tell, you have the big three, Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, Marcelo Meyer, and until the Crochet trade, you had Kyle Teal as well. He was in that same category. These guys were all 1 year away. Now it's not out of the realm of possibility that maybe one of those guys even starts on the opening day roster. Certainly all of them, the big three they still have now, they'll all be in the majors this season and they could make an impact. But the crucial thing is now they won't be counted on to make an impact. Before you sign Bregman, you really are counting on Christian Campbell to be good right away. Roman Anthony, ideally, he's batting in like the 5th spot by like May. Now that's not really necessary anymore. And instead those guys can develop, and essentially what you really want to have happen is that they just come in and just, totally dominate and force their way into the conversation. And that's a good problem to have. Whereas before, the Red Sox have been like, Von Grissom's our second baseman, and then literally everything that could possibly go wrong does, including Chris Sale then winning the Cy Young Award. They've positioned themselves much better, and now these moves they've made will help ensure that they have a chance to reach their full potential, which is finally, after all these years, not just making the playoffs, but winning the AL East again.
Let's go through the projected lineup on Fangraphs real quick. In left field, we got Jaron Duran. Third base, Rafael Devers. Second, Alex Bregman. First, Tristan Casas, hopefully healthy. DH, Masataka Yoshida. Shortstop, Trevor Story. Right field, Wilyer Abreu. Behind the plate, Connor Wong. And then in center field, Cedane Rafaela. And then on the bench, Carlos Narvaez, Romy Gonzalez, David Hamilton, Rob Rees-Snyder. How are we feeling about this lineup? And is there any holes that you see that could be changed come opening day?
I mean, it's a great lineup, but the only thing is we don't know for sure where Devers and Bregman are going to play.
Right.
That remains a big kind of what if. And the first few weeks of camp really haven't shed any light on what's going to happen. Bregman has mostly played third base. Most of the second base reps have been sort of the other guys who are competing for the spot. And Yoshida's health is going to be a big kind of under the radar X factor here, because he is recovering from off-season shoulder surgery. He is currently cleared to hit in games, and he's already DH'd in games. But for this roster and this lineup to really work, they kind of need him to play left field. So that part's easy. You just move Duran to center. Rafaela can be sort of like your super utility guy off the bench. And, ideally Yoshida maybe plays left field. You have Bregman playing third, and then Devers is the DH. That's one way this could all play out. But we don't know for sure if that's actually the way they're going to go. I think next week after the off day, so next Tuesday, we might finally see Devers in a game. He's been ramping up slowly because he was battling through shoulder injuries all last season and really didn't do much in the offseason except for rest. So that'll tell us a little something. Where does Devers play? Where does Bregman play? And regardless of where they line up, that lineup's good. That's going to be a great lineup. Bregman, the fact that you add his right-handed bat at the top of the lineup changes everything. Because without him, Story's like your second hitter, and Connor Wong is probably your 5-hitter. And that's not just by necessity, because you have to have another righty to break up the break up the lefties. So I think it's very much up in the air as to how the defense alignment kind of works out, but I think the lineup is going to be much improved.
Yeah, I think there's no question that Bregman is the superior third baseman defensively. Has there been any more developments on that? I mean, you opened camp and it seemed kind of like I don't want to go as far as say a reality show, but with Rafi Devers' comments on, I'm a third baseman, and even Tristan Casas has chimed in. And it seems like Bregman's willing to play wherever, but do you see that becoming a potential clubhouse problem? It seems like Alex Cora has a good handle on those type of things.
Nah, that whole thing was overblown, honestly.
Okay.
Devers is like you would hope that your face your franchise type of guy is very proud, and he wants to be he plays third base, and he wants to be the third baseman. The way he came out kind of swinging was eyebrow raising, but by all accounts, like from everything I've heard down in Fort Myers, there's been almost no discussion of it in the clubhouse. That later that night, I think, or maybe the next day, Devers and Bregman were at this like get together at Alex Cora's place, and they just talked for like 45 minutes. They're constantly talking about the batting cages. Like those two are cool, and ultimately where they play isn't either of their call anyway. So I think for them, they want to win, and they want to to do whatever they can to help the team. So if it comes down to it where Devers ends up getting taken off of third, my guess is he probably won't be very happy about it, but I mean, he's under contract for 9 more years, and he'll pout about it for a couple hours, and then he'll be fine. I don't anticipate this blowing up into a whole holdout, like, forcing a trade, forcing his way out of Boston. I just don't think that's a realistic scenario.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's go into the rotation. This is really solid rotation. I mean, ask just a year ago if you asked me about this rotation, I'd been like, yeah, this is where this team struggles. But the development of a guy, I know they lost Nick Pivetta, but Tanner Houck, Cutter Crawford, guys like that really helped this rotation. Then you add in a Garrett Crochet. So the projected rotation we have here is Crochet, Houck, Bueller, Giolito, and Brian Bayo. Cutter Crawford's, I believe, hurt right now, and you got Patrick Sandoval out for the year. Is this how you feel the rotation is going to line up for opening day? Or are there any dark horses here?
We'll see. I think the first three for sure. Bayo's availability is in question as well, so they may start the season with old friend Quinn Priester, former Pirate, is among the contenders. Richard Fitz came up at the end of last year through 4 very good starts, so it could be one of those guys as the 5. But the Red Sox have done their starting pitching depth has been a fatal flaw for years, and I mean I'm talking like dating back to like the early 2000s, even beyond that. Like, they've never been very good at developing pitching, and they never seem to have enough of it. Whereas now they got like 9, 10 guys you could plausibly see starting the game, and you'd be kind of comfortable with it. You're like, all right, that guy can handle business if they need to. So if you end up having a Dodgers situation where the entire starting rotation gets hurt, you can get by because you have another starting rotation's worth of dudes who are at the very least adequate to maybe even good. Lucas Giolito, I believe, is supposed to make his in-game debut next Tuesday, I want to say. Very soon, next week for sure. He is obviously didn't pitch last year because he had a internal brace surgery, so it'll be fun to see him finally take the mound. Bayo, I don't think he's a little behind, but if he does start the season in the IL, I think it shouldn't be a long-term stay. Crawford, obviously, we'll see what his knee situation is. But yeah, the front end guys, though, I mean, Crochet was an absolute monster. He struck out 7 guys, 3 innings the other day. Houck's been great. Bueller, I mean, that guy has a championship track record. So if his arm is right, he'll be good. I'm really excited to see how he looks. It's going to be fun to see a Red Sox team that isn't painfully short and trying to talk themselves into like, number 5 starter, like, well, let's just say try to get by on bullpen days, like 2 out of every 3 games, we'll say.
Yeah, it looks like Quinn Priester's velo has had a little bit of an uptick this spring as well. So that's always nice to see from him. I mean, he could always slot into like a longman role as well moving forward. But speaking of that, let's go to the bullpen. Projected closer Liam Hendricks. Setup, you got Aroldis Chapman, Garrett Whitlock, and then middle relief Justin Slayton, Greg Weissert, Justin Wilson, Brennan Bernardino, and Josh Winkowski. This is a rotating door always with the bullpen, but how do you like this group? And is there anyone in camp that has opened some eyes to possibly make their way in here?
So I'll tell you this, and your listeners this, that bullpen you just listed, I don't know if I would really rely too much on half of those guys actually being a part of it. This is a wide open competition. Hendricks versus Chapman as the closer is a real battle. We can't rule out frankly, Whitlock and Justin Slayton are both contenders for that role too. Those 4 will certainly be like the big 4, like the main core of the bullpen. Justin Wilson, I expect, will be there. They got a couple of interesting non-roster minor league guys who I think one for sure I think is going to make the team. Adam Ottavino, former Red Sox, coming off a pretty good year with the Mets, I believe. He's 39, but like he's been solid, like really good for the last few years. I think he'll make the team as long as he continues to look the part in camp. And then Matt Moore, a guy who, frankly, Red Sox fans have been clamoring from the sign for years, coming off a really tough year with the Angels, but he's another factor. I could see. I have a hard time seeing put both on the team because you'd be like, if 7 guys locked in and only one can bring people up and down. I think they want to at least preserve 2 spots for optionable people, and then that's where you'll see like. Greg Weissert, Zach Kelly, Brennan Bernardino, Luis Guerrero, I think is the favorite to make the team. He could stick around. He's been a beast. But people like that you'll see constantly coming up and down just because that's sort of the name of the game. Like you have your major league bullpen and then your AAA bullpen. Ideally, you want to pretty much be full of guys who can help you too. Just whoever's fresh, keep the fresh man up. Yeah, so it'll be fun to see how that plays out. Ottavino certainly one I think you want to kind of pencil in. I think of the two. He's certainly coming off the more successful season, better recent track record, but who knows? We'll see. Lot of unanswered questions with the bullpen.
Yeah, there's also Michael Fulmer, who I feel like hasn't really you haven't seen that name much since his big rookie campaign. So I don't know if he's a big name in camp right now or how he's doing, but that's another interesting name that was invited to spring training for the Red Sox.
Yeah, I'll kind of put him in the same bucket as like Quinn Priester, Hunter Dobbins, Richard Fitz, kind of one of those people who are jockeying for position, sort of as the depth starters. Fulmer is obviously a great story. He spent all last season with the Red Sox rehabbing from his the surgery he had in late 2023. Interesting career, right? Rookie of the year, All-Star, and a lot of really, really bad and long-term injuries since then. But when he's been healthy, he's been good. I think they would very much expect him to start the season in AAA as a starter and maybe be somebody who will be called upon if they need an emergency spot starter here or there. I don't know if I'd say he's going to be a big factor, but that's just part of the depth, right?
Sure.
Not too many teams can be like, oh yeah, like our 10th or 11th option for a starting pitcher is a former rookie of the year and all-star.
Yeah.
That's not very common.
How about prospects, Mac? I mean, outside of the big three, Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, and Christian Campbell, is there someone that you're really excited to follow this year in the system?
Yeah, so the other guy who's listed on most of the top 100s is Franklin Arias. He is a top recent international signing. He's a 19-year-old shortstop from Venezuela. Really just has been excellent ever since he joined the organization. He was in the Dominican Summer League 2 years ago, was just an absolute beast. Last year, he just totally tore apart the Florida Complex League. Comes up to low A Salem as an 18-year-old, playing with guys who are mostly 2-3 years older than he is. I don't think he'd ever even been to the United States outside of Florida by that point. So, imagine dropping a kid from Venezuela into like Virginia and like mountainous North Carolina. And, it's an adjustment, and, the numbers fell off a little bit, but he still performed well. The defense was still good. I think he's going to be a great one to watch. And then, next Thursday, we'll have the spring breakout showcase, and the Red Sox just announced their roster for that. A lot of interesting names there, too, like Yoelan Cespedes, another recent top international guy, Miguel Blaze. He was like the best position player in the Complex League a couple years ago before he had an injury. So kind of working his way up to we saw like Ronald Acuna potential with him. He hadn't really shown it since he's been back, but that's a guy to watch. David Sandlin's probably their best healthy pitching prospect right now. He had 101 in an offseason bullpen session, which was, there's like a video you can find. It's crazy. It's amazing what some of these guys can do. Like they've really brought in some guys who can, bring the velocity, which has not been a strong suit for the Red Sox. Yeah. I mean, they're the number one farm system in baseball for a reason. And, the big three at the top are the reason why, but like they got depth too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mac, what about a pick to click? Someone who's on the roster, projected to make the roster now, that's really going to help this team win the AL East?
Oh, man, that's interesting. Well, I'd say that for sure Trevor Story. That guy has been through a lot the last 3 years. Him getting hurt last year was just like awful.
Devastating.
Like, he comes off this long, like basically misses all of 23, works his butt off to get ready, looks great in the spring training, and then 8 games into the season, it's just done. I mean, he did come back again in September, which was really cool to see, but like whenever Trevor Story's been on the field, like the difference that he makes defensively is just like night and day. He changes everything. He makes Devers' life at third base so much easier. And obviously when he was in Colorado, he put some crazy offensive seasons. We just really haven't seen it yet. I think if Story can stay healthy and he can produce at anywhere close to his old like Colorado form, maybe like 20 homers, 20 stolen bases, 850 OPS, something like that. I mean, that's just going to just change everything for this team.
Yeah, I think I've always been fascinated by Ceddanne Rafaela, the skill set there. If he can take it to another level, I think he'd be a really exciting center up the middle player for this team. But I like the Trevor Story pick, especially if he's healthy. How about a 2025 prediction? It could be player-oriented or team-oriented. How is this team going to finish the season?
better than last year. I'm still trying to kind of work through in my mind kind of where they stack up against the Yankees and the Orioles. The Orioles had a disappointing offseason, honestly. I think their fans should be pretty frustrated considering you have this new owner come in, and what do you do with, like, you replace essentially Corbin Burns for Charlie Morton and a 35-year-old Japanese veteran who's never pitched in Major League Baseball. I mean, that's not better than nothing, but I wouldn't be really inspired by that. Their
A lot of pressure on Grayson Rodriguez to be like a top guy and take that
that's the
next step.
thing, that their young core, and especially the position players, are elite. So like they're going to be in the playoffs for sure. And I'm like, are the Red Sox ready to like knock them off? And then the same with the Yankees. Like the Yankees lineup is kind of questionable. Like, there's a lot of like variance there. Like there's a version where the Yankees offense is awesome, and then there's a version where it's like total trash.
Oh, I agree. The variance
Juan Soto is going to hurt. You can't replace that guy. You do still have Aaron Judge, but like everybody else, the whole Stanton thing is a little weird too. Like, but then on the flip side, their pitching staff is just crazy. Like their big three at the top, you got Cole, you got Fried, you got, Rodon. I mean, that's tough. So yeah, I think my prediction, kind of my conservative prediction is the Red Sox will finish second with 88 wins, which would be a pretty big jump from last year. It would be good enough to get them into the playoffs. I just think this division's still too difficult where to predict 95 or more just isn't realistic. I don't think, Tampa Bay could be a little better. Toronto should be a little better. It's not like the old days where when Baltimore was like losing 120 games a season, everybody could win 90 games. That's just not where they're at right now. I think they'll be a playoff team. I think they can win the AL East. I don't know if I'm quite ready to predict that they will, but who knows? Well, I feel the best about this team that I have in years, though. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Mac, we appreciate you jumping on. Where can our listeners find your work?
Oh, of course. So with the Boston Herald, so come on bostonherald.com. My stuff's on Twitter at Max Cerullo. I'm on Blue Sky. Same thing. Those are pretty much the places to be. I would say.
Cool. Awesome. Well, appreciate it, Mac. Enjoyed talking Red Sox with you, and best of luck this year.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates or the steak by the plates. And